What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. Today is Tuesday, August 3rd, and every Tuesday we talk black and gold. There's a lot of news. There was a press call today. Bob Bradley spoke. Cristian Arrango, the newly signed striker, he spoke. Carlos Vela also spoke. So we're going to dive deep into that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Gold Cup and obviously the U.S. men's national team win. And, obviously LAFC's, previous game against Minnesota United. But here to help me talk about all that, we got LAFC Live back once again. We also got Andy Diosa from Yahoo Sports and JP Marquez. How you fellas doing?
Doing good.
Andy,
doing great.
Doing good
JP,
as well.
where's your jersey, man? JP, you're the only one without a jersey this time.
No, I decided to put streetwear on today.
I know. But yeah, let's talk about the Gold Cup. I know I talked about it yesterday, but it was a big win for the U.S. men's national team. No one expected. I didn't expect a 1-0 game with all the different opportunities that were there. I expected a little bit more. But LAFC Live, I know you're very vocal. I know you follow the U.S. men's national team. Give me your thoughts on obviously what happened and how you feel about Greg Berhalter now winning 2 finals over Mexico.
Hey, Greg, I've been on his case since he's gotten the job, but he's earned my respect so far. Can he take the team to the promised land and go, make the World Cup next year and then also go deep? Like for me, it would be getting to the quarterfinals at least. That would be success for the U.S. men's national team. But he's earned respect based on the past couple of months here. We got a nice win. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't ever going to be pretty. These CONCACAF finals are usually pretty scrappy. Miles Robinson, the hero, Kellen Acosta, who I never rated, but somehow had a tournament of his life, did really well. And like I said, I tweeted out. I can't read the tweet because that's some cussing in there. But A team, B team, C team, whatever team you want to call it. It didn't matter to me. If you are on the national team, obviously you're rated highly in the program, based on, it doesn't matter where you play. If you're on a national team, you're on a national team. So we got the win. Kudos to Mexico. They had a great tournament as well. And that's all I can say. I saw you at the game too. It looked pretty cool to be there. Nice stadium. So yeah, nice win.
Yeah, no, I was there. It was exciting. It was the atmosphere. It was incredible. I almost didn't go because I didn't want to drive, but I figured it out. But it was cool, man. Just being at a final, like I said yesterday. But this was my second time, and this first time as media. But if you guys get a chance, Allegiant Stadium, if you get to watch like American football, definitely go check out the stadium. It is amazing. I know they have concerts there and everything like that. But it was really cool. And I ran into your boy Andy Pive Valderrama. He was like in the press box. I saw him and I was like, yo, I know who that is. And, so I got to talk to him and I had food with him. I know I sent you the photo over. But what were your thoughts on the Gold Cup?
Yeah, I think that it is what it is. I just didn't expect too much from the tournament itself. I think the end did kind of live up to, good expectations where we saw teams like Canada and El Salvador really play tough games. This U.S. team, I feel like we didn't expect too much from it. So to see them actually come through and win this tournament is obviously a good sign moving forward. I still think that you have to take it with a grain of salt, regardless, of what you think. Like LAFC Live said, A, B, C, whatever the case may be. Because not to forget, but Mexico was missing a few key pieces themselves. So I think it was good. It was just a good outcome, a good spectacle. I think for all of the criticism that Greg Berhalter has been getting, I think that this was definitely a step in the right direction for him, and just being able to use subs the way that he did in that final, and everything kind of just worked out to his advantage. So I wouldn't expect a lot of those players to be on the regular World Cup qualifying rosters, but I think there's a few players that definitely made names for themselves. Matt Turner had been great going into the tournament and just proved himself in that way. LAFC Live mentioned Kellen Acosta played great. So there's definitely some positive signs that the U.S. could take out of it. And then from the Mexico side, it's a lot of overreaction, but I think that at the end of the day, Tata Martino and that, that federation is gonna be fun, because this is just the competition they're playing to qualify for the World Cup. You obviously don't want to see them lose, consecutive trophies, but if we're being honest, the Nations League was like a 2-game tournament, so I'm not even putting that much weight on that either. But I think that this is a good step forward for both teams going into World Cup qualifying, because these are not teams you would play in the World Cup. These are teams you would play to get to the World Cup. So it's kind of a stepping stone for the U.S. obviously taking a leap forward, and for Mexico, let's say a step back.
Yeah, what I will say, being at the stadium, anytime you lose to the U.S., if you're a Mexico fan, it's not a good thing. And even though whether it's Nations League or whatever, you don't want to lose. And I think just being there, the stadium got silent. It was, it was because it was majority obviously Mexico fans, but it got silent. And then like obviously chants of USA, and everybody was in shock when I was there. It's just like you look around, obviously and then you have the American Outlaws. They were going crazy. But yeah, JP, give me your thoughts on how you experience and what your thoughts on Mexico and the Gold Cup.
I was bummed. It ultimately just came down to heart. I mean, the U.S.-Mexico games ultimately comes down to who has more heart and who wants it more. And the U.S. men's national team wanted it more. I didn't see enough passion or urgency in the Mexican side until after they scored. That's when everyone was scrambling and playing more aggressively. Ultimately Mexico dominated both games. Set pieces, killed them. So it's not like Mexico was outplayed in any fashion, and you need to overreact. But I think one clear conclusion is that Chicharito needs to be there. He needs to be out there up top, regardless if it's coming off the bench or being the starter. Like, you need a good number 9 there. Funes Mori did his job. It was his first tournament, so obviously he didn't have enough chemistry with the team. But those are your three strikers going into World Cup qualifying. Raúl, Chicharito, and Funes Mori, and then that's who you have to go with from there. And then that's my conclusion.
Yeah, no, and Dale Black and Gold says, question is it a Greg Mayer or Tata Martino not doing a good job? I would give the bonus. I mean, I would give the ups to Greg because the lineup he put up, I know it was high risk, high reward, and a lot of people were very critical, but it ended up working out for him. For Tata, on the other side, JP, to your point, there's some issues going on. There's things going on between Chicharito and Tata. Whatever it is hasn't been resolved, and it's clear. Like it was Funes Mori's first tournament, but he had like 4 or 5 opportunities and he wasn't able to capitalize. And for him not being able to capitalize, and he got tired towards the second half, and then Alan Pulido came in, but he didn't give you anything. That conversation is open. Chicharito is going to be there. The conversation about Chicharito being on the national team is going to be there. But nevertheless, look, U.S. men's national team won. I feel like they deserved it. The longer the game went, I feel like the U.S. were going to benefit of it, and they obviously did on the set piece, and they won it. So, hats off to the U.S. men's national team. They got the win, and now we just got to see how this goes once World Cup qualifying, because we saw Canada is not going to be an easy game. El Salvador is looking really good. So I'm really looking forward to World Cup qualifying here in a couple months, because I know those games are going to be, they're always intense. And then once Christian Pulisic, Raul Jimenez, and all those guys come back, maybe Chucky Lozano's back by then. This rivalry never disappoints. But yeah, let's talk LAFC. Like I said earlier, there's so much news that happened today with everything, obviously Eddie Segura and everything. But before we get into that, let's go a little bit back and let's talk about the previous game, because obviously they I was going to say they lost, but they didn't lose. They tied 2-2. It kind of felt like a loss because they dropped points in the last, 30 seconds or whatever it was, when Minnesota United was able to tie the game. I like to see live. What were your thoughts going into that game? Obviously, at home, you always want to get the win, and obviously the way it played out.
Well, the lineup, starting 11, was good on paper. That's what we wanted to see. I mean, you have Kimi Wan, you had Vela, you had Rossi, Cifuentes, that's the rest of the usual bunch. So there's nothing to complain on that side. And we're at home, so you expect to win. And this would be the 4th time this season we're giving up a goal in the last 5 minutes of the game. So, like I've been saying all season long, this is a mentality issue for this squad. I don't know what it is, but they keep just giving goals in the last couple of minutes. So based on that 11 that you're showing right there, I mean, there's no issues. I mean, they're legit. I mean, yeah, Segura wasn't playing, but other than that, you have no complaints. Thomas Romero's been a hot streak, who saved us, by the way, multiple times in that game. So I expected to win, even though it was a draw. It did feel like a loss to me. I don't care what anybody says. I felt like a loss to give up a goal in the last couple of minutes there. So again, this is a mentality issue. I don't know what it's going to take. Hopefully, if they rival Cristian Arrango, he could bring some strong mentality to the squad. I'm still waiting for a leader to step up. I haven't seen one yet this season. People can say it's Murillo, who's also hurt now. It's not Vela. It could be at the Westa, but sometimes he goes in the last couple minutes of games. So, I'm still waiting for that leader to step up. But yeah, disappointing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, obviously we'll look at the lineup there: Romero, Kim Moon, Blackman, Murillo, Farfan, Palacios. I mean, it's just pretty strong. We should also say, like, Murillo went out and he's not going to be available for Wednesday's game against SKC because of a hamstring issue. So it's we'll get more into that. But yeah, obviously Murillo leaving at halftime didn't help LAFC. Andy, what were your thoughts on this game? Obviously, and it's never a good look when you drop points, and obviously, to LAFC's lives points, it's like, it's a mentality. It could be a mentality issue because of the way that this team is not able to finish games. This is the second time. First time happened in Portland. Now this time happened at home because you're like, LAFC was literally 30 seconds away from walking away with 3 points.
Yeah. No, and don't forget the New York City game that happened at Ben California Stadium too. That they scored the late equalizer. I think that's my biggest takeaway of that is that when Tristan Blackman, out of all people, scores a goal in the 77th minute, you should probably not be losing that game. Like, there should be a way for you to be able to close out that last, let's say, 13 minutes plus stoppage time, whatever it was. So I think that, and I asked Bob that after the game because I was there, and it's one thing to say, okay, maybe LAFC's not playing the way that people are used to seeing them, but Carlos Vela has scored in 4 consecutive games. You get a goal from Tristan Blackman after losing Murillo to an injury. So, like, these are all positive signs that, hey, this is a good thing. And then all of that gets wiped out the way when you let Dotson score that goal there at the end. So I think for me, what Bob said basically was like, it's just we need to be smarter in these certain situations. But once again, it goes back to, like, I asked him, I was like, what is it that's just not resonating? Because it seems like there's a disconnect there where if you guys are talking about this week after week, but still continuously making the same mistakes, like, what's that about? So I think it is. I think there needs to be a little bit more cohesion with maybe somebody being the leader. And unfortunately, Eddie Segura was somebody that Bob mentioned that he wanted to be kind of that guy. So it's kind of sad that he's not going to be on the field for them again this season because that's taking, I guess, one of the vocal people out. He had also mentioned that he wanted Murillo to kind of step up in that role. With him injured, that's kind of tough. So I do think that's the most pressing part. Is like, who is the person that's stepping up and taking the bulk of this, I guess, criticism inside and trying to make things work, because everybody gets so caught up in, they're, disconnected and stuff like that. But it's like, it's not just that. It's that they're dropping points. They're losing games maybe that they shouldn't be losing. And when you have these results happening at home, when the season gets deeper into September and October, these are the games that you're going to remember and say, oh, snap, we're missing points that we need this and that. I said it to you yesterday, Gio. The important part here for these teams is to try to get a home playoff game. For LAFC to have to go on the road and play a team like SKC, who they'll see tomorrow, or have to play a Galaxy game in Carson, like, those things are not going to benefit them. And then they'll look back and say, oh, man, we dropped so many points in these last few moments. So I think that's the most concerning part there for that game for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you do mention a great point, and is that it's right, like the leaders, right? Yeah. And it's obviously when I think about the leader, I think about Carlos Vela, but he doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to be as vocal as you would expect from other leaders, right? I don't know this because I'm not in the locker room or anything like that, but I'm just going off of what I read from Carlos Vela, right? I don't know if he's a type of player that will get on his teammates or rub the teammates the wrong way. I think he just leads by performing on the field, right? And that's the way I see him. I could be wrong on that, but that's the way I see him. He performs on the field. He stays late. He'll stay late in practice. He'll do amazing things on the field. On the vocal side, I don't see that much of him. So and then like you look at who else. Obviously, they got younger guys. Murillo's injured. Eddie Segura is going to be out. There's a lot of younger guys, and I don't know if the language barrier it would be any issue. With Kim Moon, obviously it would, but I it's interesting. Bella mentioned him as a leader and the way he's doing, but I think LAFC, the players with LAFC lead in a different way, and I think when things kind of get hard, we don't really see that like responsibility or the players essentially talking about what we do in other locker rooms and other experiences, like, hey, this was on me, or this was, we need to do this and that. And I think that's one of the things that may be missing for LAFC. But I think the positive side, you also hit on it, was Carlos Vela, scoring, what was it? You just said four consecutive games. So yeah. I got the goal here. I'm going to play it. And then I want your thoughts on Carlos Vela.
Good step there from Sifu. He read it perfectly. Feeds it through into space here for Carlos Vela. Vela trying to streak his way in. Vela, Vela, Vela! Third straight game, he finds the back of the net, and LAFC have taken the lead.
Well, I guess his third straight game, potential to go to his fourth. JP, obviously seeing that goal, when I see that goal, that reminds me of the Carlos Vela, the 2019 Carlos Vela. And, you know, seeing the slow motion, how he chips it over Tyler Miller, right? And him being in motion and scoring these goals. How are you feeling about Carlos Vela now?
Yeah, Carlos Vela is the closest we've seen him to his 2019 MLS campaign. You know, he's back. He said it today in the press call. You know, he feels comfortable. He feels confident. He doesn't, you know, have any injury in the back of his mind. He feels 100%, and you can see it. You know, 3 straight games. He always wants the ball now, and like you said, I think that's how he leads. You know, he looks at his teammates, and no other teammate can say anything to him because he's always the one wanting the ball, creating chances, scoring. You know, putting the team on his back more or less, giving the team leads, or you know, sealing the games off. So Vela's back. We can't really ask too much more of Vela. This is what we expected from him. It's just the rest of the team, I think, that needs to step up and then, you know, be cohesive as a unit.
Yeah, no, I think you know, with Carlos, I think whenever you see your leader like Carlos Vela starting to score goals and starting to do what we're expected of him to do, I think it elevates the team. And but those last 30 seconds or whatever, you know, it's being able to close out those games. And I think right now that's the difference of, you know, LAFC being in 5th place to opposed to be in a higher position. But they're not too far off, and I think tomorrow's game is very important for them. It's very big because, I mean, they can move up in the standings, and you know, but it's also going to be a tough game. LAFC Live, I got Tristan Blackman's goal. I want to play the goal, and I don't want to get your thoughts because when I saw Tristan Blackman score this goal, I was like, this has to be the game winner. You know, this has to be the game winner. You know, Tristan Blackman gets it in there. Like LAFC can just drop back a little bit and, you know, tend to play it safe. Obviously, that didn't happen, but let's talk about Blackman's goal.
32-52 doing their thing in behind the Minnesota goal. Headed to the corner, and it's Tristan Blackman to make it 2-1. There's your answer. Who's going to help out on set pieces?
Fantastic direct ball in here. The timing's so perfect from Blackman. He spins off. Doesn't even have to jump, just times it well, redirects it to the back post. Tyler Miller's just stuck nothing.
So obviously we know LAFC had struggled defending set pieces, but I think the positive is finally seeing them scoring a set piece header and Tristan Blackman doing this. What were your thoughts once that goal went in, LAFC Live?
Oh, I was excited. I thought that was also a confidence booster for Tristan Blackman, not only for the team, but for himself, because he's been kind of up and down this season. And getting a goal in front of the home crowd, in front of the 32-52 right there, I mean, that's a major confidence boost. It was almost like a sigh of relief as he saw him blowing kisses to the crowd. So he's like, oh, he finally got that goal. And I was thinking, set shot. Let's just close it out, get the 3 points at home, and we're good to go. Unfortunately, that's not how it went. Mental lapses. But when that goal went in, I thought we were good. It was like around the 77th minute. And you're feeling pretty good if you're an LAFC fan. Just wasn't meant to be. And, yeah, we saw the rest played out.
Yeah, and I think after that goal, right? Like I said earlier, I was like, this is LAFC's time, right? They're they have the potential to win this game. But then in the 95th minute, Hassani Dotson scores the game tying goal, and obviously, you know, like the life at the stadium just pretty much went out because you're like, dang, this is happening again to LAFC, because I felt for the most part they were the better team, but to only walk away with 1 point instead of 3 and dropping points, I think that's what makes it really difficult. And, you know, you look like to what we spoke earlier is the mentality of this team and wanting to close things out, because I think And there's also going to be there's going to be so much more turnover, right? Obviously, let's talk about that. Jesus Murillo left at halftime. We know he's not going to be available for Wednesday's game. Now Eddie Segura is out. How are you feeling about this team? Because obviously the center back position is feeling very light.
To be honest with you, I'm not very confident right now. Losing both starting center backs who, on their best days, I'll be honest, I'm trying to be biased here. They're probably two of the best center backs in MLS when they're on their day. A good partnership. To lose both of them is not good. Now we're going to probably see Tristan Blackman and Farfan at center back, which no fan. I mean, if you do want to see that, kudos to you, but I don't want to see that. That's just a nightmare waiting to happen. I'll be at the game tomorrow, so I can't wait to see that partnership if it's the case. And then also the confidence that I was talking about Tristan Blackman, it was there after he scored, and then it went down after he gave up the late goal. And then now maybe it's going down again because it's like, oh, okay, now I'm the center back again, and now I'm playing Farfan next to me. So how's that going to work? So there's going to be a lot of turnover, hopefully. We need a proven center back. I'm not talking about a 16-year-old potential center back or someone from Vegas Lights. I'm talking like we need a center back right now. That's proven. That's just a real nasty I can't say the words, but, a real nasty person in center back. It doesn't take no crap. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need. We don't need someone soft and someone that's going to, provide leadership back there. So we'll see what happens. Got a couple of days to go.
Yeah, and I think with that, I feel like in a center back and defense, I know LAFC their pipeline is South America and obviously in Africa as well, but I feel like center back position, you don't really got to go outside the MLS, and because obviously one of those benefits is obviously not having to wait with visa things and all those things. What's going on with, obviously, with Cristian, but Andy, let's talk about the center back position, right? Because Eddie Segura is out with the ACL surgery, which happened Monday. I think we were surprised when we got the notification. We got the information sent to us, and even Bob said he was surprised because it was a non-contact play that happened in Portland, and I don't know if it was you or someone asked him about how he felt about the turf, and I think we're all on the same page. Like, I would like to see like every stadium in the MLS be played on grass. Obviously, that's not the case in this moment, but that potentially could have led to it. But Bob didn't want to comment on that. But the center back positions is thin now. No Murillo, no Eddie Segura. And tomorrow's game is not going to be an easy one for them in the defensive end.
Yeah, it definitely is surprising. I actually asked Bob after the Minnesota game why Segura didn't play, and he said that it was just a nagging knee injury that they were monitoring. But he said that Eddie that day said that he was ready to play, which is, the span of a few days, and that turns into an ACL surgery. So that's interesting. And the same thing with Moody. He said today during the press call that Moody, they were monitoring him for tomorrow's game, but then everybody's apparently saying that he's out on the injury report. So I don't know where the disconnect is on that end. But yeah, it's unfortunate for LAFC because they are, the two center back, the pairing is great, and unfortunately, this is going to start bringing the name Walker Zimmerman back around for, the circles of the conversation is that deep. But this is the type of stuff that you have to deal with in, out of nowhere, things happen. And this is unfortunate because they just get this big signing and trying to address their issues in the front line. And now they're like, oh, snap, now we got to deal with defensive lapses. So I think you hit it perfectly earlier when you said that Bob was very candid and just like, today, the fact that there's going to probably be some more players coming in and may potentially be some more players leaving. Like, though, I definitely expect a lot of movement to continue to happen within these next few weeks for LAFC, because if they're looking at anything long term for Moody, and then they're already thin, and never mind if somebody else gets hurt there, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jordan Harvey get back on the field at some capacity, which is crazy to even think of. But it's just like the options are definitely thin, especially now that they've been playing with that makeshift back line of 3 and 5. I think the idea with Chicho being there would probably be more of a 4-3-3 again, but that's still ways away for that to happen. So yeah, LAFC has a lot to deal with right now with these two injuries in the back, which is something that was completely unexpected. But then again, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's happened in this past week or so have been pretty unexpected for LAFC. So here we are.
Yeah, no, and I just pulled up right there. I know you guys saw the image. That was the injury report for tomorrow. So Murillo's out with a hamstring injury. So that I just want to put up there because I saw that on the player injury report. But I think also when I look at this and when I see this LAFC team, I don't see them playing a 5-3-2. And the reason I see that because you don't got 3 center backs to play in that back anymore. You don't got, and right, you even say unless you put Jordan Harvey, Farfan, and Blackman. But I don't think that is something you want to try, right? I see this more as them going back to a 4-3-3 for tomorrow's game. I see it going back. I see him going back to that, right? But who is going to be? I think though we can assume the back line, the midfield. Obviously, that's easy to predict. But up top, I think that the other who would, if they go back to the 4-3-3, right? We have not seen enough of Brian Rodriguez, for him to get the start. Obviously, Corey Baird is now gone. Obviously, Mark Anthony Kay is also gone. So, who do they pull up? Do they call Kyle Jennings? Do they call Danny Masevsky? Right? Or Cristian Arrango is not going to be available for tomorrow's game. So, it's not an easy task for Bob Bradley to go into tomorrow's game and win this game, right? And not want to come up with a tie, because no one wants to see a tie, and you definitely don't want to see a loss tomorrow, right? So I think Bob has his hands full, and unfortunate this is what it is being a head coach sometimes. But I do want to credit Bob being so honest in today's call, because I'm not. He was so straightforward today. He was so straightforward about this team and the potential moves. He said he I'm paraphrasing here, but he said potentially one or two more players that could be added. And to me, I think one of those, obviously, it's pretty clear it's a center back. You're going to want to get a center back because of these injuries. But another thing is, I know there was other reports linked. I know live you retweeted about another forward potentially coming in. But I think it makes it interesting. JP, let's talk about that. Let's say we can assume and predict the back line, the midfield. But who else would you like to see up top with Diego Rossi and Carlos Vela? Because to me, it's not a clear answer.
For tomorrow's game or in general?
Tomorrow, just for tomorrow's game.
I want B-Rod, because you're gonna have to sit back. You can't go all out without having center backs to protect us in the counterattack. So we're definitely gonna have to sit back. We're gonna play the counter, which is what we did the first time when we went to Kansas City. It was the first time, the five in the back really worked out. I don't think we're going to play five in the back tomorrow, but we know we can sit back on them. They're not going to have Bucio. They're not going to have Pulido. So they're not going to be as strong going up front. So, yeah, I want B-Rod on the wing, maybe Vela at the 9 so he can retain the ball because he's the biggest body there. But, yeah, I want to see B-Rod. We're going to send him some balls, and hopefully with the speed he can get past defenders and create some danger. But yeah, I mean, we can all assume what the back line is, but ultimately it's Bob Bradley who we don't have the most faith in, managing games, because he couldn't make substitutions at the end of the Minnesota game. You can't waste time. You can't bring B-Rod in and for the counter at the last 5 minutes. It's just, we can assume it, but I'm not sure what Bob is going to do. And then I think that's what the biggest fear is.
Well, let's talk about that, because to me, I understand the point of not subbing. I was surprised B-Rod didn't play that last game, but I feel like it's more on that tie is more on the players, because there was only 30 seconds left. That's just the way I see it. But yeah, you could have brought B-Rod, you could have brought other people, but they were on the way to win that game. So I feel like it's more on the players than on Bob. But go ahead, JP.
My thing is, I was at the game, right? But my thing is, when Farfan went down, Harvey ran to the bench, and then they ultimately waved him off. But you had Cheeky, Farfan, and Blackman, 3 improvised center backs there. You have to put somebody else in the middle. You have to, put something else in there to help defend, because they're not all center backs. So you're obviously, if you want to save this result and get these 3 points, I think you have to put Guiñela in at the 6 or a middle in there to help secure that back line that's improvised. But I mean, I saw when that goal went in, Vela and everybody was just gutted. It just took the breath out of the stadium. And yeah, I mean, Bob just stood there at the end, and it was just heartbreak.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. I couldn't believe him scoring, and even Tomas Romero, that wasn't on him, but he was well positioned, and then it's just the way sometimes these games has gone for LAFC. But LAFC Live, we got to talk about your boy Corey Baird. I know you had made the jersey thing. So so I wish I had the clip. I wish I would have clipped it here. But there was a bet, right? And I think the bet was if Corey Baird scored 10 goals or more than 10 goals, that LAFC Live would get a Corey Baird jersey.
Yep.
Obviously, Corey Baird gets traded to Houston. And the first thing that comes into my message, something along the lines from Alex, like, I don't have to get the Bear jersey, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, you saved yourself $100. Good for you. But let's talk about Corey Baird, because to me, the way I see this, Corey Baird was just there to essentially be there when Brian Rodriguez was gone, and he was gonna get I think about 3 months or whatever the longest. So if Brian Rodriguez got sold, then I think maybe Corey Baird is potential on this team or maybe not. And I just saw him like essentially as a stopgap, and that's what it was. But LAFC was able to flip him for $250,000, which is good business, right? What are your thoughts on obviously the Corey Baird move and how LAFC dealt him?
Well, bye. See ya. It doesn't really affect me, or I don't think I'm just being honest. Like,
what does affect you because you don't have to spend $100.
That's good. Hope he does well in Houston. All the best of luck. Thanks for, I think you got 2 goals for us, and yeah, thank you. But other than that, when he first came to the team, he wasn't. A lot of people were saying he's not meant to be the striker, and he was just a stopgap, and he was the hold-up guy. I think he struggled a lot, and he was no upgrade on Bradley Wright Phillips, obviously, or even Adio, or he's probably out of our strikers that we've gone at LAFC at the number 9. He's probably at the low end of the totem pole there. So the fact that we flipped him so early, that means that the front office was obviously watching the game, seeing that we need to make moves. We actually need a real number 9. So I give him kudos of that for flipping him and getting rid of some of the dead weight. Like I said, wish him all the best in Houston. Hopefully he does success over there. And and I saved $100 too, which is good. So.
Yeah, no, I just want to quickly in the chat. Grimace says stop Baird was $750, not $250. Yes, I believe they got $750 in what was it, TAM or allocation money, but they paid about $500,000 to get them. So they made what I was saying is they made $250,000 profit that they will be able to use for other players. But you're right, they did get $750, but I was just subtracting what they paid, what was RSL. So that's why. So I just wanted to clear that up. Obviously the news was announced. We all knew about Cristian Arrango. Andy, you got some history with that jersey. Let's talk about the jersey and how that relates to Cristian Arrango.
This is Envigado Football Club. This is one of Colombia's, I want to say, stepping stone teams. It is one of the 4 teams in the city of Medellin. And it's on the lower scale, but a lot of players that have really progressed out of Colombia have at some capacity either started their professional careers at Envigado or played there. James being the most notable one, Juan Fernando Quintero. I mean, basically everybody, because it's really one of the teams that really practices on the youth, and their like slogan is like they're the fountain of heroes. So they're the ones that kind of like build up these players. So this is actually where Chicho started his professional career. Fun fact there, which is why I wore that jersey for today. But yeah, it's good to see him finally get here. I think that it's still going to be interesting to see how long it takes, because he's still waiting on visa and everything is not done yet. So he's here and he's practicing, but it's not done yet. But my thought process is they've had Brian Rodriguez back for what now? Let's say a month or so. And we haven't seen him really get integrated into the team much. And granted, it's a different position, but you're talking about a guy that already knew the system and that hasn't been able to get back on the field. So Chicho has to learn the system, learn, how LAFC functions, which is why I mentioned earlier the 4-3-3 going back to play. And he's a traditional striker. He's a goal scorer. He's tough on the ball. He's good in the area. But I've said it before on this podcast, like the striker in LAFC's offense has never been a traditional position because of the way that they play and swap the wings. So I hope that the idea is that he could kind of fall into it easily, but I feel like it's going to be a tough adaptation process for him just in the beginning, knowing that it is really complex how LAFC plays offense. But once again, we were just mentioning it with Corey Baird, and it's like, if, say, God forbid, something happens to Chicho and he gets hurt for a few games, like, what does LAFC do? What's their option number 2? And I think we are seeing the same thing across town with the Galaxy right now, and they're like, Chicharito goes down, who's our backup striker? And I think that's the more pressing part. Like Bob talking about, there needs to be more players coming in, or there might be, some movement. Like, what else does LAFC have up their seats? Because they're just gonna bank all on Chicho being the savior here all of a sudden. I don't think that's gonna be feasible. So I think he'll do well. I think it's gonna take some time, but like I mentioned earlier, it's gonna be in the months that LAFC really needs to. It's gonna be crunch time when they're looking at positioning for the playoffs in September and October. So I'm excited. He's from Medellin, where I'm from. Hopefully I get to speak to him more on a personal level soon. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. He's a good player. I just don't. I've seen good players from Colombia come to MLS and not do well, and I've also seen players come and surprise. So the one truth about the Colombian league is that it's been on a decline for the past few years. The quality has not been great, but Chicho played at one of the biggest teams in Colombia. He's coming from a city, which I think this is pretty cool. He's coming from a city that has a crosstown rival. That's one of the bigger teams in the Colombian league. So that Galaxy LAFC thing is going to translate here pretty well. The fans for the team that he used to play with, Millonarios, they're very passionate, like LAFC fans. He talked a little bit about that today when he got caught leaving the stadium in Colombia, and they kind of like hounded him to take pictures and all that. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool for him, and hopefully, I wish him all the best every time there's Colombians that make it here to MLS. I hope to see him all do well.
Yeah, I mean, he's finally seen him able to talk. And these pictures, I know you see some of the comments. People were saying he kind of looks like a Maluma a little bit, and I kind of see it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of see it, but I'm not trying to disrespect Maluma or Chicho, but I mean, if he plays with the swagger, man, he looks good in the black and gold, and finally able to see him pictures of him in training is really good. But Andy, I think you make a very great point. It's not going to be an easy transition because I don't think it will, because right, if LAFC or LAFC fans expect them to score goals right away, it could turn out that way, right? Or it could turn out it may take them a couple weeks, it may take them a couple months to potentially get that first goal, because it's not to understand the offense, right? You said Brian Rodriguez hasn't been able to essentially crack the lineup. Maybe Brian Rodriguez's case is a little bit different. Maybe there's other things that lead to that. But yeah, I don't see. Maybe in a perfect world, I could see Chicho coming in and scoring right away. But I don't see that. Not because I don't believe in him, is because I think he needs to get still adjusted. And we'll look, it's August, and then they're going to try to get wins. Obviously, I don't know his background as well as you do, and how well he's going to be able to perform. But the opportunity is going to be there, right? And I think the biggest thing right now, outside of the visa thing, is also him to see where he's at physically and health wise, right? Is he going to be able to go for 45 minutes? Is he able to go 90 minutes? Right, but then nevertheless, it's a signing. It's a signing that everybody has asked for. It's a signing that a lot of LAFC fans I know that listen to the show have wanted a number 9 striker, and LAFC finally got the guy. Now we just got to see. Hopefully, I don't know if obviously he's not going to be available for tomorrow, but potentially this upcoming weekend. So it has to be exciting. I know a lot of people feel relieved. But I feel relief on the offensive side, but with the defensive issues and injuries, I know it's like it's a bittersweet feeling. JP, how you feeling about Cristian Arrango?
I'm feeling good. I think he's gonna kill it. I think it's a very plausible concern that Andy brings up, that he might not fit in immediately. But Moon, other than his injury, gelled into the team more or less seamlessly. It took him like four or 5 weeks, if anything, because of the injury, and I think that's why it took him so long. And I think at the 9, LAFC creates chances, so he's going to get opportunities on the ball. He just needs to put them away, and I think he can do that. And like Andy says, he's not your traditional number 9, and I don't think Bob exactly wants a traditional number 9. So they can play off of each other, they can create space. The thing about Rossi and Vela is that they want somebody to pull people away, to create spaces for them, and that's what Arrango is, because he can play the 9, or he can check in and pinch in at the 10, which creates a lot of space behind the defenders for Rossi and Vela, which is going to help the team immensely. All the highlight, or a lot of the highlighted goals for Arrango are headers. We don't score headers, so that's another plus that I see. He has a mid-range shot, or sorry, basketball term, but outside of the box shot, but which is another thing that we need. Only Sifu and Atuesta more or less have that that we've seen. So I think he's gonna come in and kill it. Especially right now that he's training and doesn't have the visa. I think these training sessions are really helping him gel into the team.
Yeah, live. How you feeling? Is it? Are you feel good with the striker that they got with Cristian Arrango?
Yeah, yeah, I feel really good about it. I said the same thing last time about Ryan Rodriguez when we got him, but you know how that's going right now. But this is a little bit more. This is what we need right now. Number 9. I've seen some of their fans say he can play at number 10 as well, but I mean, if he can adapt to this league quickly, and that'd be more successful for us. Plus, when you have Kim Wan attacking that right side and putting balls into the box, hopefully he's going to be there to finish him and head him in. And then he's going to bring pressure away from Vela and Rossi too, working the channels. And I'm sure during the game, Rossi, Vela, and Chicho, when they're all starting together, they'll be switching. Like, hey, you can play number 9, I'll go on the left wing, or vice versa. And like JP said, he's got a free kick on him. He's got a shot outside the box, something that most of the number 9s have never had. So that's going to be exciting as well. And he looks nasty too. He looks like he's a real feisty guy, which is exciting because I want that in the number 9. I want someone to stand. If Bella's getting kicked all game, I want someone to stand up for him, And then same thing with Rossi, protect our players. So I'm really excited for that. I'm really pumped, and let's hope he hits the ground running and starts scoring goals as soon as he sees the pitch.
Yeah, and the thing that I really like is that about this is something that it's his age. He's 26 years old, because we know LAFC typically go for younger players, and I like that. The reason why I bring up his age is because I feel like he has more experience, right? Obviously, he's still young. He's not old, but I think I like that it's someone that is 26 years old, has had experience playing professionally for a number of years, right? Now with obviously we know LAFC usually likes to go for younger guys, but I think him having that experience, right, and playing in Colombia and playing for Millonarios, right, and everything that Andy said, I think is going to be good. And I think certain things will be able to come easier for him to understand. Because look, if you know how to play football, you know what you do, right? Just learning set pieces, learning how to communicate with your teammates in English, and maybe Kim Wan. Obviously, those are the things, and being able to talk with Bob Bradley and understand what Bob Bradley wants out of you. I think those are going to be the things that may take some time. But if Christian knows how to play football, no matter what formation they play, we're going to see that right away. You know what I'm saying? If he's a baller, he's a baller. If he's a footballer, we're going to see that right away, and we're going to notice that right away. And I don't feel like we're going to be disappointed, because to me, it comes across, like, to your point, LFC, like, that dude got some edge. Just like talking to him in the press conference, he's excited to be in Los Angeles, but he's also he talked about today, because I don't know who asked him in the press call, but they were like, how do you see your role, right? Because obviously Rossi's there, Vela's there, and he talked about, like, he said he's like, I see myself scoring goals, assisting, and he also said he's sacrificing on the defensive end. I think that was the biggest thing that stood out to me, because when you want to win, it's not just doing the offensive side; it's also doing the things that you're not supposed to do, or you're not essentially that people don't expect you to do, and that's on the defensive side. Andy, let's talk a little bit more about what Bob Bradley said today. I'm gonna pull up this quote. I know we hit it on the head a little bit earlier, but I think it's very interesting, because when he kept bringing it up about, I'll just read the quote. Here's Bob Bradley quote. It says, "The team in a few weeks cannot look the same. We're in different type of discussions on whether or not we bring a player or two." And I think he was also hinting, obviously he talked about it earlier, about players leaving. He mentioned that they were evaluating players that would potentially stay here and all this and that. What players, because I got a few players in mind, but what players could you see potentially not being here in a couple weeks?
I think the biggest 2 names that keep getting circulated were the ones of Diego Rossi and Edward Atuesta, which is, at this juncture, if that were to happen right now, then I feel like that would kind of bring LAFC fans down a lot on confidence on what they're doing. Because I think with the Mark Anthony K thing, maybe to us it was a surprise, but the way that I got informed about it, and the way that it kind of played out, like, this was something that was already in the works a long time ago, and I don't think that anybody on the team was necessarily surprised that was happening. I don't think Mark himself was surprised that was happening. For Bob to come out and say this today kind of makes me believe, like, he knows that somebody's leaving, because, like you said earlier, it's not something that he would typically do. So that's going to be interesting. I I wouldn't think it would be a good idea for either Rossi or Atuesta to leave right now. In terms of the LAFC side, for them, sure, whatever. That's a whole different discussion depending on where they go. But this team, they're going to have to figure something out if that is the case. And even if it's not, even if he's talking more about bringing people in, then like I mentioned earlier, you're still going to have to try to get some more backups, and whether it's another striker to kind of play second fiddle, or whether it's another defender to help with the Segura injury. Because, like I mentioned, you're only an injury away from kind of being thrown for another loop. And God forbid somebody else gets seriously injured for a few stretchy games, then you're kind of scrambling. Like, I've said this all throughout the season. I feel like now it's more true. Like, all of this depth that we talked about LAFC having, it's like, now it's like, all right, it's the midfield and that's it. And even when it's the midfield, it's like you have Pancho that you're like, okay, you hope that he could really integrate himself more. That K's not there. You have Bryce Duke, who has shown flashes but has not gotten enough time. But it's like is Danny Mazowski coming off the bench in a playoff game do anything for anybody? I don't think so. There's certain pieces that like LAFC is going to need to kind of get stronger, and if they really want to go forward and be a contender. Because just a little bit on the Arrango piece, like, let's just say he's not available this week at all. Let's just say he doesn't play in San Jose. The next game that he would be able to play would be in Atlanta. And I don't know if Bob Bradley, the way he feels about turf and the way he feels about this discussion that's been going on, would want to throw Chicho out there in that stadium in front of 60,000 people in a football stadium, which he's never played in his life, to make his debut there. Then they come back here and they play another Vancouver, I think, and then it's the Galaxy game. So, like, it's going to be a tricky spot when to get him in and pick those battles. And I think that's why I mentioned that's the most important thing, because if a player is not acclimated fully, you're not throwing him into a Galaxy game. Not at this point of the season. I don't think at any point. We've seen in the past what's happened with LAFC players in big Galaxy moments. So that's why I'm like, this needs to, if it's going to happen, it needs to roll fast. If Bob is thinking about people leaving, it needs to be like coming up. If Bob is thinking about bringing people in and John Thornton, it needs to be now, because the season's coming. Like, August is going to be a wash before you know with the Galaxy game. And obviously the result of that game always kicks a narrative and the course of your season in a certain way. But after that, we're talking September and October, where like you start dropping these points. Now you're looking at it right now. We're not going anywhere in the standings. Now these teams that are lower could kind of start creeping up, and now you're having a whole different conversation than one that we're having right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But like I said earlier, definitely expect some movement, and whether it's people leaving or people joining or both, definitely expect that within the next week or so.
Yeah, no, I think to your point, I think the two names that I think of is Brian Rodriguez and Diego Rossi, maybe Eduardo Atuesta, because Bob kept bringing that up, and it wasn't just about. I think the knowns are like they need to get a center back. That's the obvious known, and obviously there was like the rumors, like I know LAFC Live retweeted about getting another forward. So if you get another, let's hypothetically speak. I don't like to speak in hypothetical terms, but the sense of what I got from Bob Bradley is that potentially it is Diego Rossi, and then that it could be we could potentially see Diego Rossi's last few games. I don't want to get ahead of myself because without knowing this information, right? Because then it gets tricky, right? Because then you're going to want to have Cristian Arrango perform right away, and that's a lot of pressure to potentially ask on him. But it's like if this roster doesn't look the same, it means that a big piece is moving. And I know I talked to you after the press call, but to me, like, Carlos Vela seemed a little bit annoyed, I want to say, and I don't know if he just didn't want to talk to the media or whatever. Obviously, we know he's not one to prefer, but like, unless he was ready to go home. But he didn't strike me that he wanted to be on that press call, and that was the first time that I've seen him kind of feel that way, or. And then I think he kind of just, that's the first time to me kind of came across. I don't know if he had to do something after, or he was just ready to go. But I think maybe he obviously may know something of what's going on, and obviously all these injuries, because he was just very focused when they asked him about Cristian Arrango. The thing that he kept bringing up and was talking about, like, look, as long as he has a good attitude and understands, then he's going to succeed, and there's going to be opportunities and all those different things. And he kept bringing up about him having a great attitude, and it makes me wonder, like, are there other players that are not having a great attitude around the team? Because he brought that up more than once, and I thought that was just interesting. But he also brought up that, like, look, you could tell, like, he's very focused and he wants to win a championship, and he was very focused on that. And to him, it obviously he was asked about the different changes within the club and everything like that, and he talked about he's like, hey, this has happened since the first season. And he's like, we just gotta, I'm paraphrasing here, but we just gotta be focused on what we want to do this season. JP, obviously, we know that this center back position needs to be filled. But what are your feelings about obviously other players potentially leaving the team?
I think it ultimately just comes down to Rossi and Rodriguez. I don't think Atuesta's leaving, because if he leaves, then we have no depth in the midfield. Guiñela's not going to fill in that void, and then Guiñela fills in that void, and Bryce Duke is the only option we have. So I don't think Atuesta's being touched until after the season. It's either you sacrifice Rossi or Rodriguez has a buyer and they're ready to lose money. But yeah, I mean, I've been clamoring for a center back since like week 5 when I wrote the 5 things that LAFC needed. I said there's only 3 viable center back options, and if one of them are out, then they're done. If Rossi and Rodriguez goes, that opens up a DP spot. David Luiz is a free agent. That spot gets filled. A DP center back. A DP center back isn't the most famous thing in MLS, but it's definitely a leader in the back. It's definitely going to help the team. Maybe that's just my wishful thinking, but you don't even have to go outside, because we don't have that many international spots. Maybe you just get a loan on the 2 best USL center backs there are, and you've helped fill the void like that. Because Segura's coming back next season. It's not like we're lost for a center back forever. We could just get a loan from a PSL center back and fill that void. But I think Rossi and Rodriguez are ultimately the ones that will leave and open up spaces for these moves to happen. But the transfer window's closing sooner rather than later, so the front office needs to get. John Thornton is not going to have a lot of nights of sleep right now. So yeah, no,
I think they're definitely working. The chat's really wanting David Luiz. LAFC Juarez says David Luiz is our guy. Let's go.
Oh man,
I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. I just don't see it. I don't see it with this front office and where they're typically linked. We still Luis is an icon living. Look, I know who David Luiz is, and I think he could definitely help out this team. The only issue that I see is LAFC is typically not linked with European players very, very often. They're more linked with the South American and African players, and I think that's just the only thing. And I think the other issue to that is the visa process, because right now you need a center back yesterday for LAFC, right? You need a center back yesterday, and if if it takes a little bit more time, for the visa process and everything like that, I just don't think you need to go outside the MLS, like I said earlier, to get a center back. Obviously, I don't know if they want to they want to spend a DP spot on a center back, because I think that's very bold. And I think you would obviously, if a David Luiz is what you guys are talking about, obviously you're definitely going to want to spend. You're definitely going to have to spend some money, but I just don't see it. Not because I don't think he's a great player. I just don't see LAFC going down that path. I see them going through the MLS path, and I think the MLS definitely has a lot of great center backs. LAFC Live, what are your thoughts? Because I know you're big on European players. You have big expectations, all that. But what are your thoughts on obviously on the potential moves that could happen for LAFC?
Well, as far as departures, my heart almost dropped today. There was a tweet from LAFC that had a video of Diego Rossi, and it said,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw that tweet. I was like, wait,
yeah.
well, I had to read it again. I was like, oh, okay. But I honestly think he could be on the way out before the end of August. And let's be honest, he's been kind of poor this season for his standards and our standards we have for Rossi. His value's not going up on the way he's playing. So if they're viewing it the way we're viewing it, maybe he'll be sold soon. That's just one of the players I could see departing. And Rodriguez, his value is just shot. So I don't know if Rossi leaves, I would assume Rodriguez is going to start, because why else would they be looking at that French forward from Guingamp trying to come in here on a loan with an option to buy? That's just kind of weird, because then we would have Rossi, Vela, Chicho, Rodriguez, the French forward, Musso, Cal Jennings. So that's a crowded up front when we have no center backs. But I think we do need to go the MLS route for center back. David Luiz, I've seen him many times play for Arsenal. He has a mistake in him. Well, a couple, maybe multiple mistakes in him, but in MLS, I think he'd succeed. But the visa thing and the whole DP money and TAM and GAM and WAM, whatever you want to call it, it's just too complicated, I think, to do for David Luiz, who's going to command a lot of money a week. He's not going to settle for, $1 million a year. He's going to want a lot of money, So I think MLS is the only way to go for a center back. And I don't want to do the cheap option of, like I said earlier, getting a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid with potential. That's not going to win us MLS Cup, and neither are the Las Vegas Lights defenders. Yes, they're going to be good in a couple of years, but we want to win now. It's just not going to work. So I think MLS, we're going to have to make a trade or go deep in the market and try and get something done here quickly.
Yeah, no, and to your point, I think I was reading this earlier on Twitter, but I think that the MLS secondary transfer window, I'm reading right here, closes on August 5th. I know the European transfer window closes on September 2nd. So I know they can still do moves and everything, but I think once the MLS closes, you can't necessarily do any moves within the MLS. Still do moves with the rest of the world in Europe and all that thing. So I think it's going to be interesting how LAFC does, because I think if they are looking at a center back, right, obviously to your point, John Thornton's definitely working. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised LAFC announce a center back by the end of the week. Within,
you have to.
Well, yeah, we're on August 3rd, just a couple days away. So I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the week or within a couple of days here that LAFC has a center back within the MLS, because I think that's what you need, and it's definitely a necessity. And obviously, you have the money. Depending, I know they weren't in the contract. They didn't talk about how much they're paying, but I think with TAM you can pay Arrango up to, I think, about $1 million. So I know they got over $1 million with Mark Anthony Kaye and Corey Baird. So I know there's money definitely left over. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Andy, how are you feeling about the black and gold? Obviously, it's like we said, it's bittersweet, but obviously this team has championship aspirations, right? And it's right now. And I asked Bob Bradley, how he felt, if he felt like they were just about right, or where he thought, or they were above or below. And he was honest. He was like, I feel like he talked about that he was below of what the standards of how they've been performing. But what were your thoughts on that, and obviously on this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no surprise or no shock to anybody that they have been, performing not up to par, up to their, expectations this year. And we talked about it earlier in the season. Like, this is a season that they were really they knew there was going to be some turnaround. They knew players were going to have to leave, and they were really all in, basically. Not that they weren't the other few years, but they were really all in on, let's go to the MLS Cup. And right now, it's it's a step-by-step process. And this is the great thing about the playoff system. Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day how they get in. If they get in, and I'm talking so much about teams wanting to play home games, but I don't even think a home game right now would benefit LAFC as much as other teams perhaps. Just because if you get hot at the right time in the playoffs, you can make a run. You have to win a few games, and that's that. So I think they're just really trying to figure out what they could do, what they have, what's the best way to move forward here. And obviously bringing in Chicho's a big step in that direction, but it needs to be, I feel like everything that LAFC has tried this year has really not worked that great. And not in the sense of players, or just it's just in the sense of the formation change hasn't really been ideal for them, because they still haven't amassed the points that they needed to, or maybe trying to play it here. I feel like everything has kind of been scrambled. The brightest spot to me, besides Tomas Romero coming in and being great in net, has obviously been Sifu's emergence. But like LAFC Live has mentioned, these players have been good at Tuesta and Vela and Rossi, but when could you say all these players have been great this season? I don't think we've seen that really from anybody besides the current stretch that Vela's on right now. I honestly wouldn't call it great. I would call it good, but I wouldn't call it great compared to what we've seen in the past. But even a guy like Atuesta is just always going to be solid. He's always going to be good, but we haven't seen them cohesively be great. And that's the word that JP has mentioned, that we've mentioned, there needs to be more cohesion for them. So I think that, listen, I've said this when they were struggling, and I'll say this again now that they're kind of in the middle pack. I'm not concerned about them talent-wise, because we all know that the talent is there. And if they put it together, they could be anybody in this league at any given moment. But until we see that, we can't continue to say, okay, no, they'll be fine. No, they'll be fine. Because like I mentioned, now the season progresses. Now we're going to be talking about the middle of August soon, and we'll be talking about September. And these are not the type of months that you're saying, oh, no, maybe they'll be all right next week or in 2 weeks. Like, this is when you need to start getting these points. So if they don't start putting points together, and I always keep mentioning it, but if they go into that Galaxy game and drop points and lose to Galaxy, then we're going to be having a very, very different conversation at the end of this month than we're having right now.
Yeah, no, I think I feel like August is it's a tight month for everybody because you also got to throw in the All-Star game there, right? Right before El Tráfico, and then I think that also, it's gonna add a lot of different things to the mix because it's a big month for a lot of people, like for a lot of players, for LAFC, and obviously what they're trying to do. I just want to obviously pull up the standings here, and I want to get your thoughts so far, JP, because if we look at the standings, obviously we'll see Seattle's at number 1 with 32 points. SKC is number 2 with 30 points. Will LAFC play tomorrow. The crosstown rival LA Galaxy is at 28 points. Colorado is in 4th with 27. LAFC with 23 points, and Minnesota with 23 points. So obviously, if you look at that, obviously it's a very tight race right there. And that's why I feel like obviously tomorrow's game is so big. JP, when you see this, obviously, to Andy's point, is once you get in, you have a chance. But when you look at where LAFC is currently placed, and knowing how big tomorrow's game is, how are you feeling about the team?
I mean, about the standings, like if you look at them, Real Salt Lake is missing a game, and they're only 2 points behind us. So we're closer to the 7th spot than we are to the 4th spot. These last 2 games, Colorado and LA dropped points. We dropped points. We missed the big opportunity to get into 4th, cement ourselves there, and really create that distance between 5th and 6th at least. Right now it's 5th, 6th, 7th. Those are all interchangeable. Tomorrow's a big game. SKC's at 30 points. We're at 23. A win puts us 4 points away, but they're missing Bucio, they're missing Pulido. One of them's hungover and one of them is sad from celebrating. But we almost beat them at Kansas City. We were 1 up, and then Blackman gets a red card and everything changes. But we can play against these teams. We can beat these teams regardless if we're gonna have to improvise on center backs. This is a true test. This is the first big final maybe of the season. And if they win, then it definitely can become a turning point. But they're really gonna have to go and focus. No room for errors, no room for mistakes, and really try to get as least as possible to get at least a tie or 3 or a win, because it's been 3 home games and they haven't won a single one. So you kind of have to finish it off with a win at least before going on the road. Atlanta and all these other games that can be tricky.
Let me add this deal real quick. You talked about earlier about the games that they've dropped these points or they had these lapses in the last moment. Minnesota right there under them. Mm-hmm. Portland is right there creeping on the line. So like they're not, these teams you expect to be in the mix are teams that have already given LAFC problems. One here in California, and then one obviously the Portland game. So if Portland creeps in there, and let's talk about Real Salt Lake, they've been playing tough against everybody right now. So these are like the Western Conference is a tough conference. You're not talking about teams that you're going to just walk over at any capacity. So, Portland creeps in, or Minnesota is going to continue to, I guess, improve if they have good talent. Like, it's going to be hard for LAFC, which is why we're saying that if you don't start getting these points now, then you're gonna kind of get into a tough situation down the road.
Yeah, because I mean, the way we see the stands right there, and it's always so tight, and and no game is an easy game in the West, and and how competitive. And there's the other, obviously everybody's trying to beat each other up, and that's why I feel like tomorrow's game is so important for them. But it's also going to be such a tough game, and they're going to be tested because their depth is really going to be limited. But at the end of the day, I feel like LAFC can still win. Let's go to give me your thoughts about tomorrow's game, and obviously what you want to see from this LAFC team with limited depth in the center back position.
Well, I think tomorrow night, LAFC is getting so desperate. We have Ted Lasso night tomorrow, and they have to believe. It's not a game. It's the middle of the season, but I understand for marketing and whatnot. But I'm interested to see about the center backs, the pairing or what the formation. I mean, you might see something crazy tomorrow where Jordan Harvey's playing center back or something like that, or even that kid Fall, who's like I think only like 18 or 19, under 21 for sure, might be playing center back. So, or maybe Poncho. Maybe Poncho might get some playing time at center back. I don't really know what it's going to look like, but that would be scary. I'll tell you that much because all you have to do is just put the ball right past them and you're gone. But it's going to be interesting. But just based on these names alone, I'm about to say you got Kim Won, Palacios, Atuesta, Cifuentes, Vela, Rossi, and now Chicho. Based on that alone, you have the talent to win the games. And Rodriguez, minus his attitude on his day, pure talent, you can win the game. So there's no reason that this team cannot.
Chicho's not going to be available. Sorry, Chicho's not going to be available.
No, I know. What I'm saying is when he is available, based on his talent, which we're going to assume he's going to act like a DP, even though he's not DP, let's just act like he's going to be. Based on that talent alone, you should be winning games. So it's all going to be up to here, mentality, and up here for heart. If you don't want to play, then we're going to lose games. And the lack of concentration, which has been happening all season long, I mean, that's going to fall on the players. It's going to fall on Bob. It's going to fall on training. So tomorrow, I keep saying to be positive. I think we're going to get a win. I'm going to the game. We better get a win. I'm hoping for 2-1, hoping for 2-1 because I'm not going all the way down there to lose or see a draw. I'm not going to have that.
I mean, look, I don't think any. Whenever you go see your team, you don't ever want to see them lose. JP, to go back to your point, I know Busio, he's being linked to the team in Europe. I forget the name. I think it's Venencia. I could be wrong. But so it's confirmed that I could see Busio obviously not playing, but Polito's not going to play tomorrow for SKC.
Polito's actually in LA right now. On Kansas City press call earlier, Peter Vermees said Busio rejoined the team in Kansas City, but Polito stayed. He just flew straight to Los Angeles, so he will be with the team tomorrow. Whether or not either of them play, I don't know, but they're with the team, both of them, technically.
Okay, because I could see. I don't see Busio playing because I think the deal is almost done. I don't know if the deal is done, but I could see Polito playing because
I can see him coming off the bench.
Yeah, but like.
Yeah, he's still there. He's still there. Yeah.
Well, what I was just trying to make sure like they won't ruled out because if I mean Polito obviously it's different when he plays for the Mexican national team, but when he plays for SKC, that's a big threat. And with the limited center backs that LAFC has, that is a big body that I don't know if LAFC the center back's going to be able to handle. Katie, who's always amazing, I want to read her comment. She says, "I'm a nervous wreck about tomorrow's game. Learning that Segura is completely out for the rest of the season just makes me very worried. If we tied against Whitecaps, I'm not sure about beating SKC. Obviously tomorrow. I mean, she makes a very, very fair point because obviously when you're getting all these different ties, and you have a strong team who's currently where were they sitting second? I believe they're sitting second. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game tomorrow, nevertheless. But look, I still think LAFC can pull it off. I think they just have to pull it off, and it has to be an ugly game. And they have. I think they have to win this game an ugly game. And Silo says they need to make it a trap game, and I think he's referring to SKC, like make it a trap game for them because they could be thinking like, look, LAFC is vulnerable right now. We could come in there and get a win. Let's get some final thoughts, Andy. Give me your final thoughts on LAFC in tomorrow's game.
This is my thing. So whenever teams come play at Bank of California Stadium, they know exactly what LAFC is going to do. And that hasn't changed much, and Bob Bradley doesn't have any intention of changing that. So I think that we'll see something similar than we've seen all season, LAFC trying to control tempo and dictate the pace. I think the one underrated part about tomorrow's game is how good Sporting Kansas City is defensively and how much that will play a difference in what LAFC is able to do because we've seen them struggle to score goals already. And I think an early goal for LAFC is important, especially if they go down one, that's gonna change things. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see the same thing. Like I said, LAFC try to control, but Sporting KC has been one of the better defensive teams this whole season. So that being said, I think it's going to be a tough game for LAFC overall. I wouldn't be surprised to see it end in a draw.
Yeah, I think we're for the same. JP, final thoughts?
Maybe I'll go a different route from Andy's point. Maybe Bob throws a curveball. We see a different formation, maybe a 4-4-2. We have Sifu or Rossi and B-Rod on the wings, Rossi and Vela up top, and we can play the counter like that with speed. But yeah, I mean they just need to come out with heart. It's been a busy week for LAFC fans, who we got our 9, but you lose your star center back. Who's going to come in? So we're very anxious. We're very up in the air of what the front office is going to do. I think Bob, like you said, was very transparent today. So maybe he's happy that he got his number 9. Maybe that's what he wanted. He wanted a transfer. He wanted that transfer, and he got it. So maybe he's like a little toy, with his new toy, or a little boy with his new toy. But
I wouldn't go as far as that, but I just want to be clear. I don't condone that, but go ahead.
But it's a big game. Hopefully they come out and get these much needed 3 points, and it could be a turning point for this team cohesively and for the rest of the season.
Okay, fair enough. LAFC Live, final thoughts.
I think tomorrow we might see the 4-3-3. I think Rodriguez, not that he has to get the start at some point. I mean, damn. I mean, we have him sitting on the bench, just sitting there. We got some talent. Yes, I'm not his biggest fan. Yes, he has a crappy attitude. But does he have talent? Sure. Does he show it a lot? No. But tomorrow will be a perfect opportunity. Him, Bella, and Rossi up top. And then you have Blessing at Tuesta and Cifuentes in the midfield. And then it's a roulette in the back. I don't know what's going to happen besides Palacios and Kim Moon-Won on the wings. And then the center back. Blackman's got to be one of them. And then I can't imagine Fall starting, but we have seen crazier things. I would probably be Farfan and Romero saving the day, hopefully in the back. I want to see some good set-piece defending. We're going to lose a little bit of height back there now, so that's another thing to keep an eye on. If we're up 1-0, can we actually close out the game? That's going to be another thing to keep an eye on.
Park the bus with Jordan Harvey.
And is Bob going to go crazy? Because one week Bob does 4 substitutions at halftime. The next week he makes 1 sub at the 46th minute. That's it. So it's inconsistent, and especially with garbage time or 5 minutes. Are you going to throw in Are you going to throw in like a defender? Are you going to throw in Pancho? Are you going to throw in just to sit back? And it's okay to play, parking the bus if you win the game. I don't care if you win ugly. If you park the bus, you park the bus. But I think we're going to win 2-1 tomorrow. And if we draw or tie, I'm gonna be disappointed. I'm gonna throw that Ted Lasso towel on the field because but that's
I'll find you at the stadium and give you a hug of consolation.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
I'll give you a Ted Lasso quote. How about that? No, but yeah, look, we definitely hit on a lot of things here, and I think for LAFC, it's not going to be an easy game, and for this game, you're going to have essentially some of the subs be starters tomorrow, and I think we're really going to see where LAFC's at in tomorrow's game, where that mentally, because they got to step up. Look, there's a lot of expectations riding, and I think I want to see other players step up. I know what Vela can do on the field. Rossi has not had the type of season I think we expected, but yeah, I want to see B-Rod. I want to see Brian Rodriguez. I don't know if he's going to get the start because I don't know if I don't know if he's physically available to play 90 minutes. But look, without Baird, you kind of have to assume like you're plugging him in or Cal Jennings or Danny Musovski. But I think everybody wants to see Brian Rodriguez play tomorrow, and I think everybody's leaning to potentially him starting, and that formation is going to change. So I think we're going to learn a lot about this with this team tomorrow. It's always going to be on LAFC because obviously they want to get the win and they want to prove a statement with everything going on. So I'm just interested to see what happens with LAFC tomorrow. But that's going to wrap things up, guys. Thank you, everybody on the chat. Thank you, everybody on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube that chimed in and asked questions and everything. For LAFC Live, for Andy, for JP, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.